Namaste, this is Dr. Rashmi Bibi. Today, let's talk about fasting, why it works and why it doesn't work. Most people think fasting is about just not eating, but biologically, fasting is not about food at all. It's about creating a pause in digestion, a pause in insulin signaling, a pause in constant metabolic noise. And in that pause, something extraordinary happens. The body doesn't become weak, but it becomes intelligent. Why do you think fasting exists in every culture in the world? If fasting were optional, it wouldn't appear in every civilization across the world. Ancient cultures didn't communicate with each other, yes, but all of them independently built fasting into their lives. Not as punishment, not as deprivation, but as physiological reset. Many cultures, fasting appears weekly, monthly, seasonally, during transitions, before major rituals, during emotional upheaval. Why? Because the human body evolved in cycles of eating and not eating. Continuous eating is just a modern experiment, which is obviously biologically not going well. Let's understand the core science, that is, what fasting actually does. Let's move away from trends and talk biology. When you eat, insulin rises, growth pathways activate, cells focus on building and storing. When you don't eat for a certain duration, insulin falls, growth pauses, repair pathways activate. This, which I am actually talking about, is not philosophical at all. It is molecular. The most important process activated during fasting is autophagy. Autophagy literally means self-cleansing. Damaged proteins are broken down, old mitochondria are recycled, inflamed cellular parts are dismantled. Just simply think of it like this. Eating is construction, whereas fasting is like housekeeping. If you keep constructing without clearing the debris, the built-up debris won't let you finish the construction easily. It is the same way here. Let's see a few scientific fasting examples. There is one overnight circadian fasting, that is fasting for 12 to 14 hours. This is the foundation, not advanced fasting type, wherein early dinner, late breakfast is done. This type alone improves insulin sensitivity, supports liver detox pathways, enhances mitochondrial efficiency. Most traditional cultures practice this naturally because dinner happened at sunset. There were no apps, there is no label, just rhythm. Another one is time restricted eating for 14 to 16 hours. Here, eating is confined to daylight hours. Science shows that this improves glucose regulation, lowers inflammatory markers, and enhances gut microbial diversity. But here is the key point. It works only when aligned with circadian biology. A 16-hour fasting followed by midnight eating is not at all fasting. It is metabolic confusion. Then there is the third one, that is cultural or ritual fasting. For example, once a week or once a month. This is where culture shows deep biological wisdom. These fasts were periodic and they were predictable. They were emotionally supported and socially synchronized. The body prepares for these kinds of fasting. Then the hormones adapt, electrolytes stabilize, the nervous system stays calm, which is why these fasts were sustainable for generations. Why do you think fasting worked in traditional cultures? Let's understand this carefully. Fasting in traditional cultures worked because daily eating itself was aligned, which included whole foods, seasonal foods, minimal snacking, and physical activity was natural, like walking, manual work, sun exposure, etc. Stress was episodic and it was not constant like in today's life. The nervous system could downshift. Sleep followed natural light. Melatonin was intact. So, fasting happened in a stable internal environment. The pause in those conditions created repair. Now, why do you think modern fasting often fails? Here is the uncomfortable truth. Today, Most people fast, but they do not receive the benefits of fasting, not because fasting is wrong, but because the context is itself wrong. Let's understand the key mistakes that we are unknowingly doing. Mistake number one: fasting on a stressed nervous system. If your body is already in survival mode with poor sleep, chronic anxiety, overstimulation, then fasting obviously becomes another stress. Instead of autophagy, the body activates cortisol. This leads to fatigue, hair fall, hormonal disruption, and fasting cannot heal a system that already feels unsafe. Mistake number two that we are doing is ultra processed eating in between fasts. If the eating window is filled with refined carbohydrates, industrial oils, artificial stimulants, then fasting only creates metabolic whiplash. Repair needs clean signals, not just empty hours. Then the mistake number three: ignoring electrolytes and hydration. Traditional fasting always included water, minerals, herbal infusions. Today, we often ignore all of these. Low sodium, low potassium, and magnesium can actually mimic fatigue, anxiety, and weakness. That is when people think fasting harmed them when actually dehydration did. Then, mistake number four: fasting against one's biological nature. Not everybody is meant for the same fasting window. Some need shorter fasts. Some need gentle fasting. For some, seasonal fasting is enough. Forcing a template borrowed from the internet disconnects fasting from biological intelligence. We also need to understand that fasting is not an act of willpower, it is an act of alignment. Fasting can be in alignment with your body's inner intelligence if and only if the nervous system feels safe, the digestion is calm and not inflamed, nightly sleep is respected, light exposure is adequate, emotional load is manageable. Only then does the pause becomes therapeutic. Otherwise, it becomes a punishment. We need to understand that the body does not respond to force, it responds to signals. Fasting is a signal that says, you are safe, there is enough, repair now. But if your lifestyle says, hurry, complete, stress, rush, the body listens to the louder message. Now, before I close, I want to tell a few things that fasting survived thousands of years because it was never extreme. It was rhythmic, it was contextual, it was respectful of human biology. The goal is not to fast longer, the goal is to fast smarter. Create the pause, but before that, create safety. That is intelligent alignment. Hope what I spoke made some sense today. If yes, please let me know. In the next episode, we'll go deeper into this topic. Till then, take care. Namaste.